expression, post-determiners. Muy bien, we discussed these articles. Acá estamos. Anaphoric, cataphoric, bien. So, remember we said we are going to discuss articles we are going to discuss the meaning. Why? Because we know that the function of the articles is determiner. So an article functions as determiner. Now, we are going to focus on meaning. Remember I said last week that articles can have specific or generic reference. If I say, I bought a house, this indefinite article has specific reference because it's not any, it's a particular one. But if I say, you can learn a language by living in the community, see, in the L1 community. In that case, the use of indefinite article has generic reference. Why? Because it can any. Bien. So let's start with specific articles. Articles with specific reference. Yes. So I am going to write in the drive. Sorry. Then, if you want, you can place it somewhere else. Yes. I'm going to start. Okay. We are going to start with specific reference. Reference, the definite article. So the definite article with a specific reference can have endophoric or exophoric reference. Do you know the difference between endophoric and exophoric? Endo y exophoric? No? Endophoric is used when the reference is in the text, in the linguistic context. For example, if I say, I bought a video and a TV. When I got home, the TV did not work. Have a look at the definite article, the. What does the refer to? The TV I mentioned before. So notice that the reference of this definite article is endophoric. Why? Because it is in the text. Entonces, first we are going to make a distinction between endophoric reference and the other, exophoric. Exophoric reference is the opposite. It's when the reference is outside the text. It's extra-linguistic. How? Well, common knowledge between hearer and speaker, writer and reader, speaker and addressee. Suppose now we are having some lessons on grammar, and I say, remember to study for the test. Have a look at the definite article there. Is there a linguistic context there? No, the reference is outside the text. We are in a classroom situation, yes, an educational situation. Yes, so we know, perhaps suppose I mentioned the test before last week. Now I am telling you to revise for the test, so we know what test we are discussing or we are talking about. But suppose that my neighbor is waiting for the elevator, she overhears that, see that comment I made, remember to study for the test, she or he may not know what test I'm referring to. Why? Because she's not part of the extra-linguistic context. ¿Se entiende? Bien. So, endophoric, the reference is in the text. Exophoric, the reference is outside the text. And shared knowledge between speaker and hearer. Sometimes the reference, see, now we are dealing with exophoric reference. The reference can be immediate or it can be larger situation. Immediate situation or larger situation. Now, what is the difference between one and the other? It has to be. Dale, a ver.
In immediate situation, the referent is, you can understand it by because of the situation, let's say.
Well, but in larger situations, the same. Ojo, it has to do with the range of, or how, to what extent this shared knowledge is shared. See, if I say, remember to study for the test, this is information known by you and me, the people present in this situation, in this context. See, as I said before, if my neighbor overhears this utterance, she may not know what test we are referring to. But what if I say, the Pope is coming to Argentina? Is that immediate? It's only shared by you and I? No.
It depends.
Shared, pero. See, we all know that there is, in a certain religion, there is, yes, a person, the head of the church, which is called the Pope. So this is shared knowledge. This is around the world, while the other is reduced. So that's the difference between immediate and larger situation. Then, now we are dealing with a exophoric reference. Another use of the definite article with specific reference, endophoric reference, is sporadic reference. Did you read sporadic reference?
Yes.
Yes. What did you understand by sporadic reference?
Something that I make reference because of the instant situation without nothing previously. When I, for example, it is because of the context and just in the moment.
Exactly. Do you have an example, Ludmila?
Yes. For example, if I say, it can make a reference to different kinds of things, for example, social institutions, or, for example, temporal event, or means of transports of communication that generally are known by the majority of people. For example, if I say, I'm going to the theater, the people who live in my city are going to recognize that I go into the theater, which is there, for example.
Perfecto, but be careful. Muy bien. If I say I go to the theater once a month, am I referring to a particular building or the act of going to that means of
entertainment? No, the act of going there and do that activity.
Exacto, tal cual. So that is sporadic reference, when a word is recognized not by the object. If I say I am listening to the radio now, I am not referring to the object, or the TV, the object. See, it's the means of communication as an institution of social activity. See, it's been used with such a frequency that it's become institutionalized. See, which is different from they are rebuilding the theater. In that case, if I say they are rebuilding the theater, in that case, am I talking about the theater as an institution or as a building? Suppose we are talking about, no sé, El Cairo. No sé, no, it's in a theater, Broadway. See, we are talking
the building.
Yeah, we are talking about the Broadway theater. Yes, it's huge. No sé, it's in the center of the city. But someone said, no, they are rebuilding the theater now. That's why we can't go there. Are we referring to the theater as an institution or as a building?
No, as a building.
As a building. So be careful, because sporadic reference is used when the means of communication, means of transport is used as an institution of human activity. But when you're using it as an object, see, in that case, it has another meaning. If I say they are remotely or rebuilding the theater, in that case, the definite article has endophoric or exophoric.
Exophoric.
Tal cual, exophoric, immediate or larger. ¿Qué les parece?
Immediate.
When acá we can argue on this. Why? There are cases in which the difference between immediate and larger is clear cut. This question of the code is larger. This question of the test is immediate. But in this case, the question of the theater, the Broadway, it could be argued. Why? Because if we take it as if we consider it as part of the city, yes, we can say that it's immediate because it's shared knowledge between people from the city. Pardon, in that case, it's larger. But if we take it in a global context, perhaps people from Japan do not know what the Broadway Theater in Rosario is. ¿Se entiende? Ojo ahí. In those cases, when it's not clear, what you have to do is choose one instance and justify it. So if you think that for you it's immediate, well, you have to say that it may be known. Remember to use the use of the modal may, might, because it shows tentativeness. It may refer to, or it may be known by people from a certain area. Perhaps people from Rosario, Casilda, no sé, Galvez, but not people from Tucumán or Bolivia. Bien. But my point is that be careful because not every time you see the theater, the radio, it means sporadic reference. It can mean sporadic reference, but it can have another meaning. The radio I bought last week does not work. And in that case, we are going to see that it has cataphonic reference, because I have to keep on reading to find the reference. See, but notice that in that case, I am not, and the radio doesn't have sporadic reference in that case. It has cataphoric. Bien.
There's one thing I'd like to add about immediate situation that we didn't say. I wrote it in the chat, but I'll say it out loud. Is that if the hearer or reader does not understand the reference that it's implying, there might be WH questions like which house or what paper, whatever.
Exactly. Tal cual. To clarify the idea. Tal cual. Sorry, that's for, you said immediate situation.
Yes, immediate situation.
Because as we said, it's shared knowledge by certain people, not everybody. Bien. Esperen que... Estamos acá. Bien. Questions? Doubts so far? No? Another use of the definite article with specific reference, endophoric reference, is part of the body. So notice that sometimes we can use the definite article with specific exophoric reference to refer to parts of the body, especially when the definite article is followed by a part of the body, of course, and preceded by some prepositions. Look at the example. They pulled her by the hair. By the hair. Everyone gave us a pat on the back. On the back. It's usually preceded by a preposition. O sea, it's a whole prepositional phrase. On is the introductory element. The back is the noun phrase complement. And look at the noun phrase. Sería, por ejemplo, back is the head. The is the definite article with, definite article, the function is determiner. And the meaning is specific, exophoric, the part of the body. ¿Se entiende? Questions, doubts?
Now, I wanted to add that sometimes we also use the determinant article, and not in that way, but not in that function, I want to say, but also when we have two parts of the body, a part of the body which refer to a double, and I want to make a reference to a specific one. For example, when I say I broke the ankle, or in that situations that I also added the dog as another kind of function of this article.
Perfecto, muy bien, Ludmila, with a specific exophoric part of the body. Perfecto, muy bien.
I have a question.
Dale.
Would this example, which one would be this example? What was the example? Yes. Jesus was crucified with nails impaled through the hands and feet.
A ver de nuevo, por favor.
Jesus was crucified, being impaled with nails on the hands and feet.
Bien, what's your doubt?
That
Can you
D.
write it in the chat? Write the
Yes.
sentence in the chat, please. I
Yes.
need to see it written. And your doubt is?
What's the function of that D? I'll write it down.
But bien, Constanza, it's okay. I've just seen your message.
Sorry about my keyboard.
No, it's okay. Bien, on the hands and feet. Perfecto. Well, what do you think? What about this use of them?
I saw it as the last point explained, parts of the body, but
See, but do you think it's endophoric or exophoric? In the context, linguistic context, or outside the context?
Is outside.
So,
And also, it's part of the theory when it said that we can replace these kinds of articles with the personal pronouns. For example, if I say he's on his hands, it's also possible. There were similar examples.
sí, tal cual, in part of the body, you mean?
Yeah.
Sí, perfecto. Tal cual, ahí está, being on the hands and feet. Tal cual, it's exophoric, specific, the definite article with specific exophoric parts of the body. Mira, on the hands and feet. Perfecto, entonces, Mili, vale, no hay problema. Is it clear, Pedro? That is a good example.
it
by
is,
the way.
yes.
Muy bien. So that is exophoric reference. The reference is outside the text. Ojo, chicos, it's not that every time you see, no sé, a means of transport is exophoric. Perdón, is exophoric sporadic reference. Not every time you see part of the body is exophoric part of the body. Ojo, look at the context. Because if I say, as I said before, I bought a TV and a radio, the radio doesn't work, in that case, it's not exophoric, it's endophoric, because the reference is in the text. Ojo ahí, ¿eh? Bien. Now, the other, endophoric reference. As I said before, the reference is in the text. So you have to read, yes, to the text to find the reference. Endophoric reference can be anaphoric reference, anaphoric reference. Anaphoric reference can be direct or indirect. Anaphora, now we are going to see. Then the other is an anaphoric cataphoric reference, and the other is logical use. Yeah, anaphoric reference is when the reference is before. So you have to go backwards in the text. Like in the example I've just given you, if I said, I bought a TV and a radio, but the radio doesn't work, do you have to keep on reading to find the reference of the radio? No, because the reference is backwards in the previous sentence or in the previous clause. So that is anaphoric reference, when you have to go backwards in the text. Demonstrative pronouns may have anaphoric or cataphoric reference. Possessive pronouns, notice that some pronouns can also have this anaphoric, cataphoric, then we are going to see it.
Yes.
But are you familiar with the exercises in which you have to find the reference?
Yes, as
Yeah.
that in language. Sorry.
Claro, ahí está, bueno, mejor. They are late again, can you believe it? Claro, I saw this in language, tal cual, es que es así. Perfecto, muy bien. Sorry, Hugo, that example, belongs to what? They are late again. Can you believe it? Ah, claro.
The anaphoric.
Claro, tal cual, el it. Ahí está. Can you believe it? Ahí
Yes.
está. Exacto. Ese it, that it refers to the previous clause. Bien. Mary goes to the... She bought what?
Here we have the anaphoric reference, sorry, the cataphoric reference, when we have to go back to the text in order to find the reference of she, for example. If I say Mary.
Ah, she, tal cual, muy bien. Sorry, I was looking at the definite article. That's why I was in doubt. Yes, she. So you have to go backwards in the text. Now, what's the difference between anaphoric and, esperen, ya llegamos a cataphoric. What's the difference between, because we said that anaphoric reference can be direct or indirect. Direct is when you use the exact noun, you repeat the noun, as in the previous example. I bought a TV and a radio. The radio doesn't work. I used the same reference, the same noun. Indirect anaphora is when you use a word, the noun, a word that belongs to that, to a group of words. It's part of the family group. For example, if I say, I bought a bike, but when I rode it, one of the wheels came off. Look at the wheel, one of the wheels. In that case, it has anaphoric reference. Why? Because the wheels of what? Of the bike I bought. So the reference is before. But did I use the exact word bike?
No, you use it.
No, I use another, the wheel. But why is that correct? Because we know that a bike needs a wheel. So they are connected. They belong to the same family group. ¿Se entiende? Bien, ¿sí? Cataphonic reference, on the other hand, is when you have to keep on reading to find the reference. When, for example, when the noun is clause modified by a relative clause or a prepositional phrase. For example, if I say, the milk that I bought was sour. Which milk? Any milk? No, the one that I bought. So you have to keep on reading to find the reference. See, so that is cataphoric reference. When you have to move on in the text. And usually the noun is clause modified. But be careful, I said usually. Sometimes it's not. Sometimes you have to keep on reading. For example, once I read an article said, she is a successful actress. She won, She was part of this film. She, and then in the very last sentence, the name of the actress. Julia Roberts was born in, so notice that in that case, see the use of the pronoun she has cataphoric. See, but there is no post modification in that case. But you have to keep on reading to see who this woman is. Bien. The present John gave me was brilliant. Ahí está. Because notice that you have to keep on reading. It's not any present. Bien, chicos. Any question or doubt so far?
No.
No. Bien.
I just want to add, like, the cataphoric reference is so much common when there's like Grammys, like presentation and something, when they want to like present like or award a winner of such contest, like this person is this years old, is great, blah blah, and then they say the name. I think
because that is to create suspense.
Yes.
It's a device. It's true. Yes, it's true.
I have a question.
See?
Maybe I'm mixing up things, but we said that the anaphoric reference could be direct or indirect, and we said that the direct one repeats the noun. When we use, for example, a possessive pronoun or another pronoun in order to replace the reference, which one will be? Direct or indirect?
Which one, for example, Aldana?
For example, the ones that the girl said before. She goes to the supermarket, Mary bought whatever. The reference there would be
cataphoric.
Yeah, but it would be okay, great. And if it's the other way around, if it's anaphoric and we have to classify between
No, but no. This question of direct or indirect anaphora applies only to demonstrative, definite article, to the definite article there.
Okay, yeah, itself.
But
Only
what?
to
The
the
definite
great.
article followed by a noun. Ahí está la clave. The noun can be the same, direct anaphora, or part of the family, indirect. The thing with possessive pronouns is that they are, like in this case, personal pronouns, see, are not followed by any nouns. For example, if I say Mary went to the supermarket, she bought, in that case, it's only an anaphoric reference. That's it. Why?
Okay, great.
By any noun, so you cannot say if it's direct or indirect.
Yeah, it's clear now. Thank you.
No, you're welcome. Then another instance of endophoric reference is logical use. What is logical use? When grammar tells me that you have to use a definite article. For example, with the superlative structure, with ordinal numbers, with some adjectives only, for example. Can I say only student who passed the test is present? Is that correct? Only student? No. What's the correct structure?
The only student.
Tal cual. Why? Because this adjective requires the use of the definite article. That is grammar. Can I say, no say, you are best students I ever had? No, you are the best students I ever had. So once again, grammar tells me that I need to use a definite article there. Why? Because there is a superlative structure. Questions, doubts?
I have a question.
Sí.
Did we deal with sporadic reference?
¿Cómo?
Did we deal with sporadic reference?
Sí.
Oh, I spaced out, sorry.
No, but yes, we did.
Yes, when we were talking about exophoric, after immediate and larger, Peter.
Oh, probably I was reading, sorry.
No, but we commented on the radio, the theater. We gave this example of the theater.
Ah, right, okay.
Bien. Questions, doubts? No? Now, the indefinite article with specific reference. Meanings. Remember, we are dealing with meaning. The first meaning is first mention. For example, let's take the previous example. I bought a TV and a radio. The radio doesn't work. Notice that "de" has an anaphoric reference. Why? Because it was mentioned before. But have a look at the two previous indefinite articles. I bought a TV and a radio. In both cases, the indefinite article was used. Why? Because it was first mentioned. The reference was first mentioned. In fact, for a definite article to have an anaphoric reference, first, the reference needs to be mentioned. One of the devices is by means of the indefinite article, when it is first mentioned. Another use, with parts of the body. I remember we saw this last class, ¿no? ¿Se acuerdan? Me parece que lo habíamos empezado a dar. Bien.
Yeah.
The indefinite article with parts of the body. Remember, I said we gave an example. I broke an arm. Notice that in that case, the indefinite article with specific reference, and that is possible. Why? Because we have two arms.
Yes, if we say, for example, I broke a nose, it doesn't make sense because we have only one nose. So it's obvious.
Yes,
It's wrong.
and it's making reference to the number one in order to say I broke a hand, I broke a leg.
Tal cual. Perfecto. Muy bien. You cannot say head hurts me, of course. Yeah, tal cual. In that case, my head hurts me. Perfecto. Muy bien. Because you have only one head. So the indefinite article with parts of the body is used when there are at least two parts involved. Fingers, toes, hands, ears, legs. Bien. Another use of the indefinite article with specific reference. When it has a descriptive role. When the indefinite article has a descriptive role. Now this is connected with grammar, with the syntactic function of the noun phrase in the sentence. Remember, we saw this. Why? A descriptive role is usually associated with a noun phrase that functions as complement to the subject. Therefore, I need a copula verb. Why? Because semantically speaking, a complement to the complement to the subject describes the noun. So if I say Mary is an intelligent woman is a noun phrase functioning as complement to the subject in the sentence. Why there is a copula verb? An intelligent woman, the complement describes the subject, see, Mary, and look at the noun phrase. There is a head, a premodifier, and an indefinite article. This indefinite article has a descriptive role, a descriptive function. So be careful. This question of the descriptive role has to do with the function of the noun phrase in the sentence. See, for example, when the noun phrase functions as complement to the subject or complement to the object, I consider Mary an intelligent woman. An intelligent woman is a noun phrase functioning as complement to the object. In this case, it's describing Mary, not I. Bien. Questions, doubts? No? Bien. Another use of the indefinite article with specific reference when the meaning is one. I have a brother and two sisters. I can rephrase, or I can paraphrase, or I can substitute the indefinite article with the number one, the pronoun one. I always want a mile or two. Bien. Would you like to add anything from here? Well, as you can see, we've just seen articles with specific reference. O sea, definite, indefinite, and zero article with specific reference. Now we are going to see the articles with generic reference. It's very short and simple. Let's start with the zero article with generic reference. The first one is categorial meaning. Now, what is categorial meaning? When the meaning is, it has general reference, but it does not include all the members or species. Have a look at the example. Joey has been chasing women ever since he was young. In this case, the zero article in women has generic reference. It refers to women in general. But can we say that he's been chasing women from all over the world or women in the world? No. We know he's a womanizer. He's been chasing quite a lot of women, but not all women, the whole species. It would be impossible for this Joey to do so. ¿Se entiende entonces? Categorial meaning is when the article, the zero article, has generic reference. It refers to a group in general, but not all members of the group. Compare this sentence. Joey has been chasing women ever since he was young. See, women in general, but not women from all over the world. With this example, milk is good for you. ¿Se entiende? In that case, we are talking about milk in general. Milk produced in Argentina, in Europe, in the USA, in Africa, no sé, in any country or in any place where milk is produced, we know that it's good for your health. And all types of milk, soy milk, all types of milk. Bien. Questions, doubts? Perdón, no, I got confused. This is the use of the zero article with specific reference. Me voy a retractar, we have just seen the definite article, the indefinite article with specific reference. Now we are dealing with the zero article with specific reference. So meaning number one is categorial meaning. Meaning number two is to describe or to assign a unique role or a unique task. When there is only one role or one task. Have a look at the example. Maureen is captain of the team. How many captains does a team have? Only one. And notice that I can also use the definite article. Maureen is, but now we are dealing with the zero. See, so let's omit the definite article. Maureen is captain of the team. In that case, the zero article is used in a noun phrase. Once again, notice that it's in a copular relationship. The noun phrase functions as complement to the subject. And it's used to describe what? A unique role or task. I insist, how many captains does a team have? Another use of the zero article with specific reference is once again sporadic reference. So notice, but we have just said that the definite article with specific exophoric reference can have a sporadic reference. But now we know that the zero article can also have a sporadic reference. And there are different labels. For example, some institutions of human life and society, means of transport and communication, times of day and night, season, meals, illness, and that's it. So notice that in those labels, we can use the zero article with sporadic reference. For example, if I say, she is in church. Notice, are we referring to a particular church? No, church as an institution of human life. But if I say, I admire the church around the corner, is that sporadic reference? No, it's the use of the definite article with categoric reference. The same happens with times of day, seasons. They can have a sporadic reference when they refer to the season in general, not a particular one. For example, winter is coming. Winter, the season. But if I say the spring of last year was cold, in that case, can we say that it's sporadic reference? No, because it's specific season, but on specific spring, the one from last year. In that case, the definite article has categoric reference. Bien. Questions, doubts so far?
So you could say that, for example, she was in school. That would be the zero. Okay.
See, where is Mary? She's at school. In that case, we are not referring to the building, but school as an institution where she works, for example, or studies. Now, but if I say I'm a teacher and I work in two schools, two primary schools, in that case, see, it is what? The building.
Yes.
Bien, chicos, the last use of the zero article with specific reference, parallel structures. We are going to skip these fixed phrases involving preposition. No. The last use of the zero article with specific reference, parallel structures. What is a parallel structure? Structures in which there is a balance between the words. Arm in arm, noun plus noun. And notice that in some cases you use the same noun. See? Hand in hand, face to face, eye to eye. There are two nouns joined by a preposition. And notice that in both cases the nouns have the zero article. But in these cases the nouns are the same. But I can also use different nouns, from father to son, from beginning to end. So notice that I use different nouns and different prepositions as well. Those are parallel structures, when there is a balance. As I said before, it could be the same noun or different nouns. The thing is that you need the same type of word. Noun. I can say from mother to beautiful. No, that is not parallel. And questions, doubts? No? Bien, chicos, venimos bien. Would you like to add something else?
You and I could be an example of this.
Sí, tal cual. Sí, pero ojo ahí, Florencia, mira, te voy a hacer una corrección. It is a parallel structure. Why? Two pronouns joined by and. The thing is that pronouns cannot be used with or are not preceded by an article. So it is a parallel structure, but it does not apply to this analysis. ¿Se entiende? Because pronouns, see, subject pronouns that we are going to see are not followed by any nouns or preceded by a determiner. They are used alone in the sentence. Perfecto.
Okay,
Sí,
thank you.
but you're right, it is a parallel structure. Bien. Go and see. Perdón, ahí tenés otra. Go and see. That is another parallel structure. The thing is that these are verbs joined by and we know that verbs are never preceded by an article. Dale, Ludmila.
Yes, we also have fixed expressions such as, for example, idioms. For example, when I say, for example, I learned something by heart, or I do, for example, on top of, or take advantage. I'm not going to say take the advantage.
Tal cual. Ajá, perfecto. Muy bien. Sí. That is a fixed expression. That would be the following point. Tal cual. Bien, chicos. Questions, doubts, comments? No? Bien, now yes. Let's move on to, bien, Norma, okay. I traveled to the universe. Yo ojo acá, Ludmila, I'm reading this example.
No, pero ese es viejo, o sea, es de otra cosa.
Perdón, no lo vi, lo veo ahora. ¿A qué se refería ese ejemplo?
A que no usaba el article, for example, when you say by bike, or when you say she goes to school because she studies and see that as an institution, the categorical use of the noun phrase.
Perfecto, bien, perfecto. I feel like I will need to reread. Sí, por favor, read everything, reread. The idea is that you read at home, we discuss it here, and then you reread it. So when you reread it, bear in mind the points we focus on. For example, we are not going to deal with 5.51. See, so omit that. But do include the points we discussed. And if you have questions or doubts, please ask them here in class. And remember to put the examples in a context. As I gave you the example, remember to study for the test. Remember, I gave you the context. It's a classroom. We know what tests we are referring to, but my neighbor may not know because she's not part of this immediate situation. So try to place all the examples in a context. Otherwise, it may be everything or nothing.
I'd like to add something regarding this. In the chat, Hugo wrote, you cannot say a head hurts me regarding parts of the body. But I said depending the context, because if for some magical reason a flying head would be hitting you, that would be correct.
Bueno, suppose that this is the exception would be like a science fiction. There is, I don't know, a monster with 3 heads. See, in that case, that would be possible, but with our part of the body, you cannot say a head hurts. ¿Se entiende? In that case, my head hurts, or his. ¿Se entiende? Of course, we need a context.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to say. The context is extremely important.
Sí, tal cual, obvio. Bien, chicos, shall we move on to generic reference? This is pretty easy and simple. Articles with generic reference. As we have just seen, the articles definite, indefinite, and zero can have a specific reference. When you're referring to a particular person, animal, but they can also have a generic reference. That is to say, they refer to something in general, not a particular person or thing. Now, the indefinite article with generic reference, when it refers to any member of a group, any member of a group. And how do I know that it has generic reference? Because I can substitute the indefinite article with the pronoun any, because precisely it means any member. And look at the example. The best way to learn a language is to live among its speakers. Can I replace indefinite article with the pronoun any?
Yes.
Yes, I can. So it has specific generic reference, any language, Japanese, Spanish, Italian, English. Mm? So that is the only use of the indefinite article with generic reference. The zero article with a generic reference. It is used with plural nouns and uncountable nouns. Mm? And when it refers to the group, the mass, or the group as a whole, as the example I gave you before, milk is good for you. I am not talking about a specific meal. I'm talking about milk in general, to the group, the class.
Yes. And here we also can add the collective nouns. For example, if I say the parliament is discussing the problem about environment, the issues of environment, for example. I'm talking about that all of the members of the parliament are discussing that issue.
Tal cual, exacto. Perfecto, generic reference. Muy bien. And then the definite article with a generic reference is used when the noun is singular, but also when the noun is plural. When the noun is singular, when we see the class represented by one of its members. For example, if I say no one knows when the wheel was invented. Notice that in this case, the wheel in general, not a particular one. And notice that the noun that follows is singular. We can also use it with musical instruments and dances. Mary plays the violin. Notice that it's in general, and not particular one, the activity, and it's the musical instrument. And then the definite article with generic reference can be followed with a plural noun. And there are two cases. The first one is when it's a nationality group. For example, if I say the Chinese are hardworking. And the second is phrases with how we deal with personal adjectival heads.
Yes, for example, if I say the rich got a lot of money, for example, I'm making a reference to this adjective as the head of the phrase and referring to that in general.
Claro, o sea, it refers to a group of people with those qualities. I mean, people who have a lot of money. So, and what's unusual about these two cases? Notice that it says the definite article with generic reference with plural noun phrases. The nouns are in plural. Yet, there is no inflectional suffix showing number. Why? Because notionally speaking, the word denotes plurality. So, therefore, it's not necessary for you to add an inflectional suffix. It would be redundant. And in fact, in the second case, you cannot pluralize an adjective. ¿Se entiende? Tal cual, exacto. Semantically speaking, we can deduce it. That it's plural.
Yeah, we saw it when we were dealing with nouns with number, because there was a case that it was adjective, phrasal head, and well.
Exacto, ahí. Perfecto. Bien, chicos. Questions, doubts? No? Bien, the last comment I would like to make as regards articles. Notice that when the noun is uncountable, it doesn't matter if it's abstract or concrete, but uncountable nouns are usually used with a zero article. Milk is good for you, generic reference. Now, there are exceptions to that rule. When, for example, a zero article can be used with a definite article, or it can be used with an indefinite article in some cases. See? So go to page 286. 2.58, and we are going to see that. For example, if I say, I like history, history as a subject is uncountable, and notice that it is used with a zero article. I'm talking about history in general, the science, the subject. But if I say, I like the history of Europe, notice that history is still an uncountable noun. But notice that it is used with the definite article. Why? Because it's not history in general, it's the one of Europe. And in fact, the definite article has Cataphonic reference.
I have a question.
Yeah.
I think I saw this repeatedly. When you make a modification in an abstract or an uncountable noun, it stops being abstract because you say the history of Russia. It's not anymore an abstract because you are specifying that it is the history of Russia. So why is this an exception of the rule of abstracts if
But sorry, but it's
Russia is not anymore?
No, but it's not an exception to abstract or a concrete. The thing is that the rule says that uncountable nouns are usually used with the zero article, regardless of, I mean, it doesn't matter if they are abstract or concrete. Uncountable nouns are usually used with the zero article. The thing is that sometimes you can use them with the definite article or the indefinite article. But in that case, for example, if I say I like the history of Europe, in that case, history is still uncountable, but the thing is that it's preceded by a definite article. Why? Because it's not history in general, it's the one of Europe. Now it has specific reference. ¿Se entiende? But we are not discussing if it's still abstract or concrete, and besides we can discuss it. Remember that this question of abstract is when it's perceived by the senses. But what the writer is trying to tell you is that there are exceptions to the rule that says that uncountable nouns are always or usually preceded by an indefinite, by a zero article, because you can use them with a definite article when the noun, the uncountable noun, is post-modified. Because in this case, the article has cataphoric reference, and we are not talking about history in general. We are talking about specific type of history, the European one. See?
Okay.
The same happens, for example, if I say, I bought the furniture for my house. We know that furniture is uncountable. So it's used with the zero article. But what if I say this museum specializes in the furniture of the 18th century? In that case, the noun furniture is post-modified. It's not any furniture, but the one of 18th century. And notice that it's used with a definite article with cataphonic reference, precisely because it's endophoric, cataphoric reference.
Yes.
¿Se entiende? But we are not discussing if it's still abstract or concrete. No, guys, the use of uncountable nouns with the definite article or with the indefinite article we are going to see now. ¿Sí? Esto sería como una excepción a la regla. ¿Me explico? Bien. Uncountable nouns preceded by indefinite articles. For example, if I say education is important for everyone. Notice that education is an uncountable noun, zero article, the rule. But what if I say Mary maybe had a good education?
I'm referring specifically to the kind of education that someone receives.
Exactly. Perhaps she was trained by specialists in good manners, or she went to special school, or her family background. So we can say that she had a good education. Notice that in this case, education is still uncountable, but it's preceded with indefinite article. Why? Because it has specific reference, not generic. Look at another example. My son suffers from a strange dislike of mathematics. Dislike is uncountable now. It's an abstraction, feeling. But in this case, this is with indefinite article. A strange dislike of mathematics, specific one, for a specific reason. Now, there are two reasons or two rules for uncountable nouns to be used with the indefinite article. The first one is when the noun, the head, refers to a quality or abstraction that is attributed to a person. Who feels dislike? People or animals or objects? People. So the noun head refers to an abstraction attributed to people, human beings. El second, the noun, this abstraction is can be pre and or post modified. In the first example, the noun is pre-modified, but in the second one, it's pre, strange, and post modified of mathematics. Why? Because that makes it specific. ¿Se entiende, chicos? So those are the rules in which an uncountable noun can be preceded by an indefinite article. And of course, it has specific meaning. Questions, doubts? No? Bien, chicos. Have you been working with the article, the guardian, with the exercises from nouns? Questions,
Yes.
doubts? Perfecto. Questions or doubts you may have?
I have one question. As regards to the classification of the case, when we say that it can be unmarked, always that a noun which case is unmarked, it is going to be unmarked in common case.
See, if it's unmarked, common case.
Common, only common. Okay. Thank you.
Any other doubt? How did you find the practice on nouns?
Once you review everything that we have dealt with, it isn't that difficult. It's very
No,
automatic.
because, exacto, tal cual. And besides, it's quite totally different from the sentence, for example, or phrases.
Yes, yeah,
Sí,
we
tal
have
cual.
like a better organization according to the classification and how to analyze them.
Tal cual. Sí, so work with the theory. Sorry, before we continue, how to analyze articles, form and function. Sí, muy fácil. For example, I bought a house.
Sorry, before we move to articles, I have a question. When we have, well, I was working with a summary that was on the campus, and it said that invariable plural can be nouns ending in S, and I couldn't find any example of that.
An invariable plural?
Yeah, it was. Está en el cuadrito. I didn't find it on the book, but it was there, and well, it confused me.
Nouns ending with S. No, there is also an invariable singular. See?
Yeah, and it also said that it could be used in both. I think, at least that's what it's in the chat. On the chat.
No, but it's invariable singular.
Yes, it is. I agree with Aldana because it's writing that way. It may be a mistake.
Sí, por favor, correct it. Yes.
Okay, great. Now it confused me because I looked in other sources and I couldn't find anything, so that's why I wanted to ask.
Please, no, it's okay. Correct it. And nouns ending in S are invariable singular, like news.
Yeah.
What are names of subjects, names of disease, names of games? The thing is that this S is not an inflectional suffix showing number. It's part of the word.
Ah, yeah, great. Thank you.
No, it's okay. Any other question? ¿no? Vamos a ver how to analyze articles. I wrote an example. I bought a house. Suppose you have to analyze the indefinite article A. You're going to identify or analyze it by means of form and function. Form. First, you identify the type of article, definite, indefinite, or zero. In this case, indefinite article. And then the meaning we have just discussed. In this case, there is no context, but we can say that it's first mentioned. Meaning. Ahí está. That is the form. Meaning, indefinite article, I identified the type of article and then the meaning. Meaning, first mentioned. And now the function. The function is always determiner. Determiner, and now I have to mention the general classification of the noun that follows, or the noun which is determined by the determiner. In this case, house, which is a common countable concrete noun, house. I want to make the line now. So that's how to analyze the noun. So remember that the function of the articles, the function is always determiner. What's the only exception? The only exception is logical use. Because grammar tells me that I need to use a definite article. So I will give you an example. The best student ever. Suppose we have to analyze the definite article then. So in form, we are going to say that it is a definite article. You identify the type of article, and now the meaning with specific endophoric reference, logical use. Porque tenemos que seguir ese cuadrito que estoy armando, ¿no? Logical use. That is the form. Function. It's the for the definite article plus superlative structure. See, I need to mention the structure that tells me that I need to use the definite article. If suppose it's the 4th of July, in that case, it's definite article with specific endophoric logical use, function the plus ordinal number. ¿Se entiende, chicos? But that's how you analyze articles in terms of form and function. Bien, so we finished articles. I told you how to analyze article. We clarify. Sí.
You put in the second example, the is a definite article
Sí.
with a specific endophoric reference with logical use.
Sí.
Okay, eso quería.
Está bien. So we dealt with articles. I told you how to analyze articles. We clarified your doubts on nouns. Now let's get organized. Homework. For next week, I want you to continue working with the Guardian. Analyze the following 10 nouns and analyze 10 articles, the first 10 articles. Of course, you check the key and then we clarify your doubts in class. Next week, we are going to start with pronouns, which is Unit 6. You have to read the whole chapter, but we are not going to start and finish next week. So for next week, I want you to read from 6.1 up to 6.23. See? We are going to start with pronouns next week.
Okay, and the other week we have to read from 1 point to 1.
Como 6.1 up to para next Friday, Ludmila.
Yes, and from the other Friday.
Esperen, no, ahora les digo.
Okay.
Para el otro, we are going to have a TP, number 2.
On the 17th?
Profe, ese día no hay clases.
¿Por?
Hay
Porque está
una,
de taller de docencia.
Cierto, es verdad, es cierto, lo recibí ayer, el mensaje. Bueno, entonces va a ser el 16, o sea, porque no necesito avanzar. El jueves 16 va a ser el TP. ¿De qué? De nouns y artículos. El formato del examen, como en el texto que tienen, palabritas subrayadas, van a tener que analizar sustantivos y artículos, y les voy a dar un ejercicio, un filling de gaps, que tiene que completar con el artículo que corresponda.
ok.
Profe, el TP va a ser como otra vez, lo mandás por mensajería interna, lo realizamos y lo mandamos.
Y me lo mandan, tal cual, vamos a hacerlo así, por mensaje, sí, le mando el mensajito. Sí.
Sí, mejor.
Bien, chicos, vamos a organizarnos por esas 2 semanas. No nos adelantemos, no vayamos tan lejos, ¿sí? Para la próxima empezamos con pronouns y en la otra el TP que es el 16, dijimos el 16. Y después, el viernes que viene, el viernes 10, vamos a ver, según cómo avancemos acá con este tema, qué tienen que leer para las otras semanas.
In the chat, bueno, ya puedo hablar español.
No.
El tema de las calificaciones del TP anterior. Eso.
¿Cómo?
El tema del TP anterior que hicimos de.
Sí, esperen, aguántenme, chicos, les prometo, espero terminar, corregir todo para el fin de semana. Se me juntaron con todas otras instituciones y no estoy haciendo tiempo, pero obviamente se los tengo que mandar ya.
Ok.
Sí. Perdón, disculpen, sí, pero se me juntó todo, pero se los voy a mandar. Se los tengo que mandar, obvio.
Y otra cosa, bueno, entonces, ¿cómo quedamos con las fechas? Lo del 6.1 al 6.23 es para la semana que viene.
El viernes que viene. Y en la otra, o sea, en 2 semanas, el jueves 16, es el TP número 2.
Está, jueves.
Sí, porque el viernes no nos vemos. Recuerden que es nouns y articles.
Okay. Y
Así
todo
que,
lo que tenemos, bueno, lo que hay lo de práctica es lo de The Guardian.
Sí, tal cual, exacto.
En lo de The Guardian también hay práctica de los articles.
Sí, todo, hay de todo.
Isa, hay más práctica si vos te fijas en la guideline de grammar. Bueno, ahí vos tenés dividido por unidad, tenés mucha más practice que te va a servir también para lo que supuestamente va a tomar eso de poner los artículos, insertar artículos en un texto, poner un passage. Hay mucha práctica.
Okay.
Sí,
bueno.
chicos, a ver, no se queden solo con el Guardian, porque el Guardian nos prepara para un examen, o sea, ustedes tienen que aprender, entonces, descarguen un solo libro. A ver, yo necesito reforzar nouns. Elijo este libro porque es acorde a mi nivel, lo descargo, me descargo la guideline y a ver, y de este libro, ¿qué tengo de nouns? Me fijo ahí. Y si quieren hacer más unidades porque les interesa, no se queden con esto del Guardian, porque es muy acotado, te prepara para un examen. O sea, ustedes tienen que aprender, para enseñarlo. Y porque fíjense en que lo que damos acá, nada más que está bajado al alumno, la explicación, que a veces está mucho más claro. Y ahí es cuando era esto. Bien, chicos.
Entonces, en los libros también hay práctica como la de The Guardian de nouns.
No, Aldana.
Hay solo la explicación.
No, explicación y práctica.
Ok.
Pero es el libro del student, o sea, es un libro que vos vas y compras en la librería y de todo tipo de práctica. Tenés filling de gaps, no sé, multiple choice, es práctica, que te va a servir para todo. Bien, chicos, ¿alguna otra pregunta? ¿No?
¿La modalidad del TP va a ser la misma que usamos para el otro?
Exacto, por mensajería.
Ok, perfecto.
Bien, chicos, ¿listo? ¿Alguna otra pregunta? ¿No? Nos vemos entonces el viernes que viene, ¿sí?
Ok, thank you.
Gracias.